Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I am Bobby Marquis, the Executive Director of the Johann Fust Library Foundation, and it is my honor to welcome you here today to our beautiful loggia and gardens for the first time in almost 2 years. So it's a happy day. And I hope while you're here, you'll have a chance to take a look at these gardens. They've gotten some new plantings, and I think you'll notice we have a lot more color right now. And even on a dark day like this, a cloudy day is always the best day for color. So enjoy. We are happy to offer a live stream option for our programs this season, and I want to extend a special greeting to those of you watching from home. This is meant to be a discussion, and just a reminder, as audience members, when you ask a question or respond to a topic, please be sure to use the microphone so those at home will hear as well. We are here this afternoon to have a discussion with Noha Ryder. She is the Chief Financial Officer of Apollo's Fire. Formerly, she was the Executive Director and Development Director. She has been closely involved with Apollo's Fire since 2015. Noha has her bachelor's and her MBA from Case Western Reserve University. We are grateful that she has come to Boca Grande to join us yesterday as we watched the documentary Playing with Fire, and today to help us go a little deeper into the Apollo's Fire story. Please help me to welcome Noha Ryder.
Thank you, everyone. It's so nice to be in beautiful Boca Grande. People have been apologizing about the weather now being sunny, but I came from Cleveland and it was -4 last Friday. So this is really a treat. Anyway, and I took a tour of the gardens yesterday. They're absolutely stunning. For those of you who are not here, I hope you can come and see them soon. I'd like to extend a thank you to Deb Nash for helping to bring this film here, recommending it. As many of you may know, Deb and Les were so passionate about Apollo's Fire, and this is really special to be able to bring this film here and realize Les's and Deb's hard work over the many years to get Apollo's Fire to where it is. They were board members, and as you all know, the help and support of board members is critical to these nonprofits, as is going on in this library. So thank you, Deb. Also, I'd like to thank Bobby, because the logistics of setting all this up and the video streaming, we know how much time it takes to do all the behind the scenes to make it just right. So thanks, Bobby. You do a great job. And then I'd also like to thank my my home away from home hostess, Jackie Hoyt. Thanks for hosting me. You are the best. And it's made it really, really fun and special. And then welcome to all of you. Everybody has been so warm and welcoming. And I just feel so very comfortable and at ease here. And so thank you for coming and learning more about Apollo's Fire. Apollo's Fire, the musicians come from all over because they're specialists. So they don't all live in Cleveland, of course. They come from all over the country and then sometimes from Europe. And the musicians are all housed with what we call innkeepers. So if on tour it's different. But like, let's say when they come to Cleveland, you know, the Nashes will host a musician. Dawn would host a musician. And they would stay at their house. And in that process, they really get to know them. And they get to know more about the music. They get to know more about Apollo's Fire. They get to know some of the fun gossip. It's really fun. And it connects our audience to the music and to Apollo's Fire. So that's been really, really special and important. And then just a couple more comments. Part of our recipe for success also has been the strong audience support, as I've mentioned, because of all the things that we do and how we connect with them. but also our musicians, because Apollo's Fire has done so well, the best musicians are always getting their calendars out and seeing, putting Apollo's Fire first on their calendar, and then they fill in the rest of their schedule. So we always get the best musicians and most of the ones that we want for any program, which is really, really wonderful. And then last but not least, in the past few years, the board has been incredible. As with any small organization, there were growing pains. A lot of board members were there just because they liked the music. But as the organization matured and grew and moved out of the adolescent stages, the board became, a more thoughtfully constructed board. We looked at what our needs were as an organization and, looked at the skill sets of people. And we went after those people to ask them to invite them to join our board. And that has been tremendously helpful to Apollo's Fire. And then lastly, I'm going to leave you with a few numbers, since I am a numbers person. Apollo's Fire, I think in the film we said we were $2.2 million. That was our budget. We're $2.9 million now, so tremendous growth. We get funding from our earned tickets. A lot of nonprofits don't have a lot of income from earned income, but we sell a lot of tickets. We have a lot of sold out concerts. We get 40% of our budget from tickets and touring, and 20% from foundations and government funding, 35% from individuals, and a small percent from corporate. And we enjoy really consistent support from the National Endowment for the Arts, which is really a testament to what they think of Apollo's Fire and the work that we do. And those are my comments. So I hope that was
Such an
helpful.
interesting and inspiring story.
Thank you.
It's a success story.
Yes.
So Noha, I had the question, and I'm not sure if other people do too, but when we say Baroque music, what do we mean? What is Baroque music?
That's a good question. What is Baroque music? I'm going to repeat the question. But they can hear you, right? Yes. Okay, so I don't have to repeat it. So Baroque music is music that was in the 17th and 18th century, from around 1600 to middle 1750. And it was after the Renaissance period, and really kind of the main guy for Baroque music was Bach. He experimented with all kinds of ways of playing music, expanded the orchestra, used different instruments, highlighted certain instruments like the Brandenburg Five. He got a new harpsichord. Jeannette talked about that in the movie. And he did a whole, movement practically with the harpsichord. And that's the style of music that it is. It's has a lot of ornamentation to it. What's interesting also about Baroque music is a lot of the music, the scores that were left had no dynamics. It was just notes on a piece of paper. And that's why, honestly, some of the Baroque music that you might hear may not be, I don't want to say as well done, but maybe doesn't speak to you. It's left a lot to the interpretation of the conductor or the musicians in how they play. It's kind of like jazz. It has a bit of an improvisational aspect to it. So
that's great. I was wondering about that. So do you think that there were some opinions that people had when they just heard the term Baroque that made them kind of, their first inclination would be to tune it out? Or,
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. A lot of people are like, Baroque,
Yeah. I'm not into Baroque.
Yeah, it sounds very old.
Yeah.
It does. But it's not.
But it's all about the interpretation.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So I have a question for our audience. If you were not familiar with Baroque music before, what is your impression of Baroque music after you saw the film? And we have Sandra has a microphone there if you would like to say something. Anyone? Oh, okay, we need to be on the microphone. Okay.
So that the live stream can hear.
We listened to yesterday was just fabulous.
Thank you.
It was.
Well, I liked, I like the emotional piece to it. That's what makes Baroque come alive for me.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's Jeannette. But I don't know, maybe other Baroque orchestras are like that too, I don't know.
I think, I mean, even if you research Baroque, it does talk about emotion and expression, but it depends, who really takes that seriously and takes it, delivers on it. And she does. So you're right, yeah.
Did anyone else have something to share?
I just have a question. So the instruments are interesting to me. How do you get them? How do you maintain them? Who owns them? How does it, because instruments are funny things. They can last or they can't. So
Yeah.
the hardware is important.
Oh, absolutely. The instruments, some of them are owned by the musicians. They're their own instruments. Some are old, some are newer, but made in the old style. The feature of the, I think Johanna spoke to that yesterday. The bow is different in the, for the Baroque instruments. But one of the other features that's very unique is the fact that they use on the strings, they use gut strings. And the gut strings just produce a very different sound. It's kind of, all right, to use a food analogy, it's like fresh baked bread. It's really earthy and fresh, and I don't know, it's organic in a way. So there are people that tune these instruments. There are harpsichord makers, that fix harpsichords. So yeah, there's a market for that. But they are very unique instruments.
Well, he took my question, but that's okay. I'll go to another one. He's typical. The other thing that I found so fascinating about the Baroque story is the story and how Jeannette explained that, I never realized that there was a real story that went with these pieces that told, and to watch her thinking about it and then to see her express it when she started orchestrating was just phenomenal. It pulled it together, and it made the music make so much more sense. And that's where you got the elevations of emotion, tenderness, and triumphant, and all the different things. I was just fascinated by it.
Yeah, and another term they use for Baroque music is historically informed performances. And there are some people that take that seriously, like Jeannette does, and the material is there, the research is there, but you have to do it, and then you have to then translate it from what you learned to the music and how you deliver it to the audience. And she does that very well.
Thank you. Yep, someone else.
About the instruments, are the old instruments precursors to what you see in today's symphonies, or were they just, how did that evolve, the instruments, like Hooter was asking? And does
Yeah.
somebody make them today, and then you buy either a violin from now, or you buy the old violin? How does that work?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of both. There are some new instruments that you could buy, like a new cello, and have it, be in the style of. Exactly. The Baroque cello doesn't have a pin that sits on the floor. The musicians hold it, keep it between their knees. And so you can buy new ones that are in that style, but then there are ones that are older that exist, and some musicians have them. And Renee, our principal cellist, has a variety of cellos. One old, and he uses different ones depending on the piece he's playing and the sound he gets out of it.
Those who put the music,
Oh, is it on? There you go.
Yeah, it's on. Just closer to your mouth.
those who put the music together, are they the ones who actually put a story with the music? Or does somebody else do that? I'm just never quite sure where the
Oh, you mean
actual
the
stories come from.
composers? The composers that
Yeah, the
create the
performers.
music? I think it's a mixture. For example, the Four Seasons, Vivaldi's Four Seasons. We all know that piece so well. We've heard it, different ways. But when Vivaldi wrote that music, he actually made notations on the score saying, like, this is like the chattering of teeth in the winter, like for the winter movements. This is a shepherd, falling asleep while his sheep run amok, this is the thunder coming. And so he wrote these notes. And so some people just play the music because it's beautiful. Jeannette calls it, Vivaldi's Four Seasons rediscovered, and speaks to these and illustrates that part that sounds like the thunder, clapping, illustrates it before they play those movements. So when you hear it, it really comes alive to you. Now, the Eggman Overture, which was referred to yesterday, obviously there's a history around that, which she described. She looks or reads this and incorporates it in how she interprets the score and how she plays it. So there's a mixture. Some of Bach's, oratorios and things are just played. The Handel's Messiah, we all listened to that. That was intended by Handel. If you look at the history of it, it's really more of a theatrical piece. He didn't always have the best singers, but he had some singers that really were expressive on the stage and kind of acted out the Messiah. So it's a mixture of both.
Someone else?
Excuse me.
Back to the musicians. Because you don't have a core set of musicians in the employment of the orchestra, how difficult is it to find these people who has the availability, if they're going from orchestra to orchestra and if they're coming from all over the world? It seems to me it would be, particularly because this is such a unique style of music and the instruments are so specific.
Yeah, no, scheduling is a bit of a nightmare sometimes, and all our musicians are outside contractors, so they're not employed by Apollo's Fire. We do have some core musicians, like our principal cellists, some of our violinists who perform with us regularly. But as I said, because Apollo's Fire has grown to have such a reputation in the early music field, the musicians like to play with Apollo's Fire. So they check with Apollo's Fire to see, like, what is our season, what's the next season that we're doing, and are they going to play with us or not? The other aspect is, like, for example, right before the pandemic, we were going to do the Bach St. Matthew Passion, which is a huge undertaking, double orchestra, double chorus, children's choir. I mean, it's big. And so something like that, we let our musicians know early on that we're planning on this, because this requires a lot of planning and funding and so forth. And so they hold the dates for us. And then the other thing that's interesting is, because these musicians, even when they're not playing with Apollo's Fire, they've played with each other, with different ensembles or groups. Jeannette might say to, so-and-so who's a violinist, she said, I'm really looking for, I need a brass player, I need a horn or whatever. Do you know? And they say, oh, so-and-so, I've played with them or her, and they're really great, so we reach out to them. And so that's how we cobble it together. It's not always easy, for sure.
Well, just following along with your very good question. So what's interesting to me a little bit is that musicians aren't just interchangeable parts. They all have parts to them that are unique. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know this because I'm a very bad musician. And so you just can't have your number one violinist any old person. They have to. So I'm just asking that as a question.
Yeah, and those are our core musicians. I mean, those are the people that we will reach out to right away, kind of leading those sections. our cellist. We have a flute player who's really, Kathy Stewart, who's really great. So we reach out to her right away and we secure them. So yeah, you get the core and then you fill in with the rest.
Is Jeannette in charge of all the singers and all the musicians? That's a lot.
Jeanette's in charge of everything. This is a founder-led organization that happens. Yes, she selects the musicians because she has, a vision and a sight of what she wants to put together or hear. The chorus, one of the musettes, that young chorus group that I was speaking about, her name is Madeline Healy, and she was young when she started with Apollo's Fire. She's from Cleveland, and she, beautiful singer. I mean, that's what makes our musicians, our singers so great. They're all trained singers, trained musicians. They're not just good, they're trained. And Madeline is really wonderful. She could have like a solo career, and she does, but she moved to New York City and she sings with, chorus groups at Trinity Wall Street, which has a big Baroque program. So she was our chorus manager for a while. So when Jeannette needs a chorus, she's able to delegate that to Madeline because she trusts Madeline to get the right musicians. So yes, she's in charge, it's certainly artistically,
Can this documentary be seen on Prime or Netflix?
Not yet. I mean, by this time it would have been seen, it would have had that kind of distribution because it came out right before the pandemic. And I think the film producer had intentions of a certain, distribution before we had the rights to it, Apollo's Fire. So it will be at some point, yes.
Hi. One quick thing about Jeannette that I noticed yesterday, and she's so lovely, but she's the mother hen. She keeps everybody in line, and sometimes people will get off on a little tangent or, on their own, whatever, in discussion, but she'll just say, I'm in charge, and this is the way it's going to be. So that I like about her because everything she says really has meaning, and people really do stop and listen to her. I stopped. So that's one thing. Yeah.
Knowing Jeannette from the inside, for the film, of course, she's, very pleasant, very charming. And she's on the stage. She has an amazing, charming presence. But when she needs musicians to do things, there's no question that it will be done, But that's what a leader is. You can't have everybody's opinion, Like sports analogy, the coach doesn't discuss what play should we do, They said, this is what we're doing.
Do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely, and they respect her for that.
Following up on the last question, where can those of us who missed it yesterday see the documentary?
Yeah, I don't know. Too bad. I don't know, Carol. I'll find out. Because again, Alan Miller's company is still in charge right now. Once we get a hold of it, because that was like the agreement, I think we will have a different kind of distribution. So, but I'll find out and let you know for sure.
What kept me, and I think all of us, on the edge of our seats is when she would describe what's coming, what's happening, and then it happens, and you hear it. And that made the music come alive in a special way. If you're attending a concert which you don't have the benefit of that input, how do you prepare to listen to music where there is a story? How do you access the story unless someone chooses to tell you before they do it?
Yeah. So that's a very good question. And one of Jeanette's other talents, she has many, she's actually a very, very good writer. And she writes pretty incredible program notes. And describing the history, the background, what to look for, why it's done this certain way. She's really quite good at that. And now I think we are doing electronic dissemination of our program books so that people can get them and read them, online at home. Because of COVID. So some really good things have come out of that. But before that, I was, before the concert, I had a huge list of names where I would send the program notes to them so that they can read it. And they really loved that. People, the feedback I got was they loved that. And, other people would hear and say, oh, can you put me on the list? And I'm like, sure, And they were just like a Word document or a PDF, so it wasn't like the program book, like the professional one we have now. But yet, it was really helpful. It was really good.
I can add something. I'm a virtual subscriber, and so I've been enjoying Apollo's Fire since the beginning of when Deb started talking about Apollo's Fire, and we were thinking about airing the documentary, and I subscribed at the beginning of COVID, and I really have enjoyed it, and I am continuing my subscription. And recently, they did Vivaldi's Four Seasons, and before the actual concert, they had this, I guess it was a subscriber's video where you could watch Jeannette talking about each movement, and then they would play it. And then she would describe what you were going to hear, and you'd hear the birds, and you'd hear the teeth chattering, and it was just incredible. So, I've listened to Vivaldi's Four Seasons my whole life, and finally, I understood what I was hearing. Yeah.
You hear it differently now. Right. Yeah. I forgot also to mention we have pre-concert lectures. You just reminded me about that. We have pre-concert lectures, so people that want to come before, it's about an hour before the concert. We have usually a speaker, and we've had some amazing speakers. There's a guy, his name is Tom Kelly. He's an early music specialist at Harvard, and he is the most charming, knowledgeable person. He was really good. So we get a lot of really good speakers that help explain the programs too.
So what did everyone think about women conductors, and what about the sort of theme especially when Jeannette was talking about her road to Apollo's Fire, about as a woman, what she encountered? How did that resound for people? Yeah. Yeah. So as Ann said, we shouldn't have to think about that, that it should be automatic. Did anyone else have a thought?
Needless to say, when it's about women, I have something to say. I think one of the things about Jeannette and being the woman and looking at other conductors, and we've had amazing conductors with the Cleveland Orchestra, Van Dochnani, Velsermosa, and so forth. She has a use of her body that's very feminine along with being musical. And so I think it's a plus to watch her. And I haven't seen any other conductors. They all use their bodies. But she has a way about herself that she's almost, the music is coming through her. That's, I think, quite strong as her being a woman.
As a matter of fact, hello? Okay. As a matter of fact, when Spano was talking about her, he commented, wasn't it he who said that she has just this incredible, it's almost undescribable how she evokes so much with her body, with her face, with her hands. And when she was teaching at Tanglewood, was it?
In Aspen.
Aspen.
Yes.
Wasn't that amazing?
Oh, yeah.
It was revealing to me to see.
It truly was. It truly was. And you, I have the privilege of, some don't think it is, but I thought it was, of really listening to each concert. As I said, we played them 4 times every weekend, four different days. And some programs I went to all 4 nights. And every time you hear it, you hear something new. And especially in Baroque music, because Bach really highlighted the instruments. It's not when a Cleveland orchestra or a symphony plays, you hear it as one unified sound. When Apollo's Fire plays, you hear it as one unified sound, but you also recognize the individuality of the instruments and the musicians. And when you hear it several times, you get that. It was really fun.
Yeah, Joanne.
And one thing about Jeannette, and I noticed yesterday when she was talking about, I can't remember which piece, but she channels it. When she talks about music, I'm getting chills. She definitely feels the music. She feels the notes, and she was meant to be. I mean, it took her a while to get to where she is right now, but even as a little child, in fact, Jackie and I had a discussion earlier about when she wanted to play the piano for some school program. She said she lied. She was like 9 or 10. She did not have a piano, but she made herself a paper keyboard. I mean, that's fascinating. So she had a goal, and she stuck right with us. So I give her all the credit in the world. She's lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How do you keep classical music alive? We go to performance and there are people 60 years and older. What happens to the people who are younger? They just don't go to these performances.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big question. I think we just have to make the music relevant to people, and it's to younger people, and it is hard. It's not easy because we have just so much competition with, social media, YouTube, electronic music now. So you don't even have to be talented musically. You could just be kind of a computer geek and make some kind of really cool music, So there's a lot of competition out there, and it is a little scary. And it's not just like for Apollo's Fire, but it's for major orchestras. They're all like struggling to, thinking about the future. And especially with the, cutbacks in education, the first things that go are the arts and, which is a shame. So, I think in-school programs, I don't know.
I think your diversity program is probably going a long way to helping with that.
Oh, sure. No, absolutely.
That inclusiveness.
Yep. And we do this, the Cleveland Orchestra does it, and I'm speaking about them because that's my home orchestra, and they are fantastic. We have free student rush tickets. So the day of the concert, any student comes to the box office, gets free tickets and entrance. Cleveland Orchestra does, I think, the same, or like $5 tickets or $10 tickets. That's really wonderful. And it's a very cool experience to be a young person and, attend a concert at Severance Hall. I mean, it's a stunning hall, and the orchestra is just so beautiful. You feel grown up, So I think that's what we have to keep doing, and hope for the best.
So Noha, I had another question, which was that Jeannette talked about how it's very important for her to connect with the concertmaster, especially when she conducts another orchestra and when she's a guest conductor. So I hadn't really heard that term, and so I looked at your website and discovered that your current concertmaster is Alan Chu. And I was just wondering about, have there been others before him, and how is that position determined?
So the concertmaster is kind of like the quarterback of the orchestra, not the one that decides on everything like the conductor, the essence of the music and what they want to deliver. They're the quarterback of the musicians, let's put it that way, not the orchestra, but the musicians. And so, the concertmaster has to be somebody that the conductor or musicians respect, trust. They kind of set the tempo for the other musicians. And, it's someone who's responsible, who connects with both the conductor and the musicians. And in our case, Alan, he's a young guy, but he's shown incredible maturity and really a great deal of leadership. Before him, we had Olivier Bralt. He's a Quebecan, and he's the guy with the ponytail that you might have seen. And this guy is just absolutely charming. Everybody just adores him. And so he was our concertmaster for quite some time, but then, he decided, or he's teaching a lot at McGill University in Canada, and so he scaled back. So then what Jeannette did was she did like 3 concertmasters just to give the young some of the musicians like Johanna and Adrian Post, 2 of our core violinists, and then Alan Chu, an opportunity to be the leaders or concertmasters. And it's kind of like seeing who rises to the top in this regard. But it is a very important role, and you might have seen when she was conducting the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra with Handel, she talked to the concertmaster there, and she said, "Hey, could you get him to play these notes this way with a little," and so he's the person that she can't talk to every individual. He leads them into that, and that's his job. Yeah.
And is the concertmaster always the first chair violinist?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that before, so I'm learning. So how do you see the role of the conductor? I'm just kind of putting it out there for everyone here. What are your thoughts? We've said a lot. Maybe we've already answered that. But the storytelling, I think, is a big part. And it was something new, I think, that I discovered with Apollo's Fire. Because, like Noha was saying, I'm used to the orchestras where, the conductor has his back to you, he turns around to bow, and there's not a lot of dialogue. Whereas with Jeannette, you're getting a story.
Yeah, and I'm not a music major or anything, but I've attend a lot of music, and I have a friend whose husband was first violinist with the Cleveland Orchestra for a long time, so I learned a lot from them over the years, and so he's retired now, and we'll meet at the concert on Thursday night, and Eric, her husband, I won't mention his last name, will come to the concert and he'll just like walk out in a huff at intermission. He's like, "Oh, I don't like how so-and-so conducts this piece, this Beethoven or whatever." And I'm like, "Oh, I thought it sounded great," because I don't have that nuance. But I think when you've played a piece or heard a piece and it's so familiarly, and then let's say you hear a conductor who's like playing it very fast or very loud, and you don't like that. That's the difference between one conductor and another. One person may interpret the piece like, up there, where another one is like, "Oh, let's play it a little softer," and that gives a different presentation. So if you know a piece really well, and you hear different conductors, that's when you can compare it. But to hear just one, oh my God, they all sound so good,
Does anyone else have any thoughts they'd like to share or questions for Noha?
Thank you, Noha. I really am enjoying this talk. Bobby, you're doing a great job. My question is about the leadership aspect. You talked a lot about the board and its involvement and setting, the future direction of the organization. And, you've had this tremendous growth for the last 30 years. What's next? What's the next big thing for Apollo's Fire?
That's a good question. I mean, we're always like coming up with a new layer to add onto it. Our funding has grown in the past few years. I mean, we were like, cobbling things from year to year. But we, as our star has risen, so has, more money and more funding and more support. So that helps. And the reason it helps is because in many ways. One is it would allow Jeannette to do some bigger programs that she wants to do, like the St. Matthew Passion that I was speaking about. When you see something like this, you're just wowed. Doing more operas. We did Orfeo a couple of years ago, and it was incredible. It was really wonderful, and this is one of the first operas that was written. What's next is possibly some bigger programs that way. Another thing, that our organization needs to think about is really succession planning. Jeannette is still young, and she's got a lot of years to conduct, but she also has her own, conducting career separate than Apollo's Fire. And so, people say, oh, well, Apollo's Fire, without Jeannette, there isn't any Apollo's Fire. Yeah, I'm sure she likes to hear that. But the truth of the matter, she doesn't always like to hear what I'm going to say right now is, Apollo's Fire is not just what she does, that's how it came about, which is really great. But the other thing that she has done is she has really created an appetite and an audience for Baroque music when really nothing that substantial has existed before that, in Cleveland and in many areas, because Baroque music was just, period music was coming back, right? So I think there's an audience and an appetite to hear that music. So succession planning is another part of the board. And no one's going to be able to do all she does, but hopefully we'll grow enough that we can, have like somebody that does these crossover programs and then someone that does the classical programs, kind of divvy up those responsibilities. So that's the kind of growth, and then sustainability of the orchestra so that we hand it off to the successor to Jeannette at some point, whenever that is.
It's a good question. Yeah. Well, does anyone else have something they'd like to add or ask? Well, this has been wonderful. And Noha, I want to thank you very much for joining us today and for coming to Boca Grande to share Apollo's Fire with us.
Thank you so much, Bobby.
Thank you.
You all have been so amazing. Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you all for coming, and also to our at-home viewers. Thank you so much, everyone.
Did we do our little drawing?
No, we didn't.
Did we have
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, so I have 3 CDs. We have 3 CDs here. One or 2 of them are the most recent recording of Vivaldi's Four Seasons with this really handsome violinist, Francisco Folana. And I also have, and he's really great, I mean, aside being handsome and cute. Also, we have a CD of Songs of Orpheus, which is our Grammy-winning CD, and that's with tenor Karim Suleiman, who people also think is handsome. But this is really beautiful. I mean, it's all absolutely beautiful music. And so we've put a sticker on the back of 3 chairs. 2 chairs? 3 chairs. So if there's like a dot on the back of your chair, whoever comes here first gets to choose. And thank you all for being here. It's just been really wonderful. Yay. Thank you. Yes. So we have our 3 winners. Thank you very much. Enjoy. Thank you. Thank you very much. Great to see you. I don't go to the beach, so I'll share.
This was terrific. Thank you so much.
I'm glad you came. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
And thank you for participating.
Yes.
Yeah, this
It
was
was a
meant.
pleasure.
Yeah, this was meant to be an interactive, so I'm really glad that we talked.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'll be in. I don't remember which the songs I